What is up today, MFFLs, Dallas Mavericks fans all over the place? Last night, the Dallas Mavericks took down the San Antonio Spurs with a final score of 126-119. It was a game, of course, we already knew. They're talking about number one overall draft pick, Victor Wembanyama, the phenom, believed to be the phenom, a future face of the league, is the belief, of course. So, and also, of course, on the Dallas Mavericks side, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. How exactly is a guy like Derek Lively going to play in his first NBA action, again, in a regular season type format? So there was a lot to talk about last night. There were a few things, again, positives to take out of this game. Again, it was entertaining. We're talking about an NBA game. It's game one of an 82 game regular season, of course. So you're going to have still some growing pains. Teams still trying to learn each other because, again, especially Dallas Mavericks, we have a lot of new faces and a few new guys in the rotational mix. So there were some things just to work out in game one. But again, there were some positives. Let's get into them a little bit. Before we get going, I want you guys to go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. And I appreciate you guys for all the support. Let's roll.
This was a ride from the very beginning. The first thing I guess is obvious to talk about is the starting lineup Jason Kidd chose to go with. I was confused because, again, we saw a guy like Derek Lively get all the starts pretty much throughout the entire process of preseason. So to see him go with the starting lineup, of course, of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Grant Williams, Derrick Jones Jr. at the 3 position, I guess you could say, and playing the 5 was Maxi Kleber. Of course, obviously, I'm going to say it was a plus just because of the simple fact that he could have easily gone back to what he always does, what he always knows. And I'm talking about Jason Kidd and going with Dwight Powell in the starting lineup. But, of course, he goes a little bit different. I guess the thought process might have been about maybe Maxi Kleber is a floor stretcher. To a certain extent, I don't see him as a knockdown three-point shooter. But so I guess to stretch the floor, keep Victor Wembanyama out of the paint as much as possible. But of course, what we saw was Victor Wembanyama, we found a lot early on in the game he's guarding a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. And these teams, especially these young teams now, they're going to continue to put pressure on the Dallas Mavericks because, again, last year we have lots of leaky defense, especially when it comes to rim protection. So teams were coming out there, but especially the Spurs in this case, they came out rim running and rim hunting, I'm going to say, early on in the game and often because, again, that's how they got out to this nice little start. We give up about 40 points, I believe, in the first quarter. So it was not a great defensive start at all. And I'm going to attribute that to, again, guys still trying to learn where their positioning is on this team and also just their role specifically. But one thing we will be able to say, Derek Lively, when he finally got his play, his opportunity in this game, instantly showed that he is definitely an NBA player. And again, one thing is for sure, he's going to continue to develop. His body's going to get a little bigger. He's going to get stronger, more compact. So you're going to have to let some of these growing pains happen. That's what I'm saying. Derek Lively, to me, is your unquestioned starter at this point. You're going to have to take your bumps when you get them. But again, that's a guy that you're going to have to get as many opportunities, especially in his rookie season. Tim Hardaway Jr., pretty much also the Dallas Mavericks, we're having a little issue in the first quarter again, just staying, intact and keeping the game somewhat close until a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. starts to light it up early on in the game. Of course, he ends up going 5 of 14 from the field goals, 3 of 10 from 3, but ends up with 17 points. And to me personally, in the first quarter, Tim Hardaway Jr., we know he can become a shot chucker sometimes, but this game showed that he just has the capability to get hot, and sometimes that's going to help the Dallas Mavericks team in a long season. More so in the second quarter, I'm going to say the team got a little bit more comfortable. Of course, you're watching a guy like Luka Doncic. He's getting a guy like Derek Lively a little more involved, and Luka himself starts to take a little bit more control. Luka Doncic ends the game with 33 points, 10 assists, 13 total rebounds. We have gotten so used to this. And also, I'm going to say on 13 of 25 shooting. So it's efficient shooting. 3 of 11 from three-pointers. Well, of course, sometimes Luka Doncic is taking these shots because he's feeling the game, the flow of the game. He feels like it's his chance to pretty much take over and just give us a nice, solid lead. So it doesn't bother me at all. But we're sorry. Luka Doncic is one of those guys. He's shown many times, again, we're talking about four-time first-team All-NBA in this league in his first 5 seasons. So now heading into his 6th season, we're going to see exactly what he can continue to add on to that. But in game 1, it was a nice showing. Kyrie Irving, he had a little bit of trouble again starting off hot in this game. He was not at all. But as the game continued to trickle down and get a little bit more close, you saw a guy like Kyrie Irving be one of those closers. Kyrie Irving ends up with 22 points, 10 of 24 on field goals, 1 of 8 from 3. Again, a guy that we saw also ends up with a steal. And let's go back to Luka Doncic, also with 2 steals. So these guys are playing the lanes as the game continues to develop and continue to get more. I guess just have a better, clear view of what guys are being asked to do. So I'm just very excited, again, just to know that we do have that offensive capability. That's one thing this Dallas Mavericks team is going to have. Getting better defensively is what's going to continue to be our calling card. But offensively, we're going to have to be able to score some buckets. Look at Grant Williams right there. Ends up with 17 points, 6 of 11 on field goals, 4 of 8 from 3. This is one of those games, I'm going to say, where somebody has kind of like, of course, you can see his impact. One thing is for sure, you're going to always be able to notice Grant Williams. He's a talker. He's a very vocal guy. But one thing I saw is, again, just that capability of shooting. And I feel like he's going to be more of a consistent shooter, that 3-and-D type player, based on what we're used to. We saw certain times Grant Williams having given a guy like Victor Wembanyama a little trouble. Victor Wembanyama ends up in foul trouble early on and pretty much often in this game. But we saw just at certain points, Grant Williams is one of those guys that don't let the small size, I guess the height more in general, his height fool you. This is a guy that has some real ability. And again, he's going to have a lot of these silent, nice scoring nights. Derek Lively, the second, you see right there with his, I guess his offensive round and putback. We haven't seen much of that the last couple of years. Look at this finish right here and the foul. Derek Lively. Again, I don't want to go too crazy because this guy is still a rookie. He's 19 years old, I believe, still. So he still has a nice little pieces to keep continue to add to his game. But again, I cannot say much on a negative aspect of what we saw from Derek Lively in his NBA debut. Olivia Maxence Prosper, a guy we did not see get any playing time in this game. Again, I feel like this is going to be one of those things where you're going to continue to see an Omax just have to continue to develop and show that he can get some playing time and just find where he fits in among the rest of these veterans, I guess, older veterans. But a guy like Jaden Hardy, I was surprised to not see him. It comes out, again, that he's a little hurt or whatever it is. I'm not sure how true this is, but Jaden Hardy was a guy I'm expecting to see possibly play something close to what that Tim Hardaway Jr. role is. Because Tim Hardaway Jr., we do know he's a volume shooter and he can get hot. Jaden Hardy still has some of those same, I guess you want to say, abilities. And I'm talking about the positive abilities. A guy that you're going to be able to watch and say, he's a guy that sometimes you're going to have these games in a long season that you're going to need a hot guy like Jaden Hardy to come in there and make some noise. So hopefully we can get him back in this rotation. Hopefully we can be able to see him just continue to grow because it's still now, year 2, I believe, of his career. You want to just continue to see even a drop of development and progression. So the Dallas Mavericks, this game was just something, again, it's trying to get guys familiar with playing with each other. Let's go through the San Antonio Spurs, pretty much, they have Keldon Johnson, 17 points. Zach Collins was one of those sleepy, I guess, underrated kind of players in this game. A guy that you saw be able to have a little bit, I guess, more production. Especially, I'm going to say more so when a guy like Maxi Kleber's in the game. Because what we're going to look to do, I'm going to say, is this team is still, although we're a work in progress, I want to shore up that big man behind a guy like Derek Lively. You do not want Derek Lively to end up being one of these guys where, again, we're still talking about he's 19 years old. You can't put too much on a kid's shoulders at that young of an age because, again, what we're asking him to do, of course, you're not asking him to come out and be here and 20, 30-point scorer a game, but what we're asking him to do is be the front line of our defense. And sometimes that's a little bit of pressure for such a young guy. The one thing we did see is he's a very vocal player. And one thing Jason Kidd spoke about all preseason and throughout the entire offseason program is that Derek Lively picks up information and retains it very quickly, and he's not scared of being that vocal guy. And sometimes you don't see that from young guys. Look at this right here. Again, just the athletic ability. A younger Tyson Chandler in that sense, I'm going to say. Also, but look at Josh Green. One thing I want to talk about Josh Green a little bit. Of course, we see he just gets the new 3-year extension, I believe, over the last few days. So he's obviously going to be in the Dallas Mavericks plans going forward, but a guy like Josh Green ends up with 11 points, 3 of 5 on field goals, ends up getting 30 minutes, surprisingly, which it didn't feel like it to me. 2 of 2 on 3-pointers, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Josh Green is going to be a guy I'm looking to completely lock down that 3 position going forward. I hope Jason Kidd pretty much figured out that this starting lineup for the Dallas Mavericks should be Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Josh Green, Grant Williams, and Derek Lively. That's going to be our best ability to continue to get better. And if you're watching right here, as you see, the game is in the balance right now. It's 117 to 115. The Dallas Mavericks are down by 2. Luka Doncic just plays on a tightrope. He understands he has a defender beat. That's an easy bucket. Or he can hesitate just for a moment, let the defender run into him, gets the and one. Look at the Mavericks right here getting the ball movement. That's the biggest thing you saw from this game. Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic playing that two-man game way more. They didn't do that much last year. It's kind of your turn, my turn, your turn. This is a little bit better flow, and I'm feeling like this team is finally starting to figure out what we need to do on that offensive side of the ball. So as long as we can lock in defensively, Josh Green is going to help with that. Derek Lively is going to help with that. Grant Williams and some of these other guys. The Dallas Mavericks are where they need to be. This is going to be a nice little ride. Again, we're talking about playing the Brooklyn Nets next game. So the Dallas Mavericks are going to continue to have to add and show that they can beat teams in different kind of ways, because we do know you have a player like Luka Doncic, big shot right here, puts the Mavericks up 126 to 119. That pretty much ices the game, and the clock will run out. But when you're playing all these different teams, you want to show that you do have the ability to win in many different ways. You can't just outscore everybody. So this team is still a work in progress, but I believe for game one, that was pretty good to go.
The Dallas Mavericks find themselves playing against the Brooklyn Nets on Friday. I believe the 27th of October will be the date. So, of course, that's going to be a game where you're going to see still some familiar faces. So Spencer Dinwiddie, of course, is still with that team. Dorian Finney-Smith, of course, is still with that team. And they have some guys that the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to keep a close eye on. Of course, we're talking about guys like Mikal Bridges. Has shown just his upping his production offensively, especially over this last year or so since his being traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Brooklyn Nets. And then, of course, Ben Simmons is going to be there, who some people call the Luka stopper, or a guy that has kind of given Luka some trouble at certain points of their matchup. So we're going to see exactly what this team has and how important it's going to be, again, to try to get yourselves to a 2-0 start to this regular season for the Dallas Mavericks. Because, again, this is the West that we know exactly. The Western Conference is very, very close. Teams are not completely separating themselves. And, again, we're going to find ourselves in some of these late season battles where some of these earlier wins can possibly help the Dallas Mavericks keep improving that seeding by playoff time. So the Dallas Mavericks have now beat the San Antonio Spurs yesterday. Again, final score of 126 Dallas, 119 San Antonio Spurs. So, of course, seeing a guy like Derek Lively end up with 16 points, 10 rebounds. Just the ability that he showed that he can potentially be that Tyson Chandler light type center for the Dallas Mavericks, at least in this season, because, again, he's still a rookie. We're talking about a 19-year-old kid, so we want to continue to let him develop. Again, we're going to see what some of these other faces can bring to the Dallas Mavericks, the production. Hopefully a guy like Jaden Hardy, once again, I've said, is going to be able to be a more of a focal point for this team going forward. We'll see. I appreciate you guys as always, and also as always, go Mavs.